This regular meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 6:00 p.m. I am very pleased that you have taken time to join us this evening. As the Judson Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals and policies and oversee the management of the district. We are responsible for approving budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and to listen to reports from the superintendent. We are not here to make administrative or management decisions pertaining to the daily operations of the district. This is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with the State Government Code on open meetings, tonight's meeting has been properly posted. This is a meeting in the public, not a meeting of the public. As our guest, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of the Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. And instead of calling roll, I'll just ask for everyone to please designate that on your screen.
Part-time, march. Color guard, hold. Left, face. Crease and colors.
Well, we apparently have had a few traffic issues this evening, so our pledge leader is not here this evening. But let's go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance to both the U.S. and Texas flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Order, arm. Ready, face. Forward, march. Color guard, hold. Ready, step. Ready, pull. Ready, post. Ready, step. Ready, face. Crease and arms. Order, arms. Ready, face. Forward, march. Color guard, hold. On.
Please join me in a prayer. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight to do good for all of the community of Judson ISD. Tonight, we specially celebrate our board members. I ask you to bestow your blessings upon them. Help guide us as we make decisions for our students, that we make them in the best interest. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. All right, I'd like to introduce and to recognize our color guard for this evening, coming from Wagner High School Junior ROTC. Cadet Master Sergeant Nathaniel Rule, Cadet First Sergeant Isaiah Barnes, Cadet Second Lieutenant James Chavez, and Cadet Private Aiden Para.
The mic is not on.
And our next recognition is coming from J-STEM Academy. J-STEM's team, Practice Plastic, has marked a huge milestone in their quest to become Girls Build National Champions. The big news came earlier when their team was chosen as one of the 10 nationwide to compete this season. So they are national finalists. They are Nellie Irby, Naolin Gonzalez, Marissa Ramirez, Cheyenne Lopez, Mariana Rangel, Ava Riggs, Diana King, Isabel Romero, Alexandra Banda, Dania Vidal, Nevea Top, and Rihanna Starks. Just to tell you a little bit about them while they're taking their picture here, their website, event plans, and budget draft documents were just acknowledged by girlsbuild.org. Their challenge is to implement their community project of service and advocacy over the next few months. Champions are selected in May, and their instructor is Mr. Randall Oman. And will the parents of these students, can you please stand to be recognized as well if you're here? Thank you very much. Now, being recognized by a national association affiliated with what you do as your profession is a wonderful thing. And Judson High School Theater Arts Director Larry Bailey has been honored by the National Speech and Debate Association's Honor Society. His special membership is the result of his students' speech and debate presentations, competition, and service. Mr. Bailey works hard with his students to perform with confidence and purpose in each production and competition. He will be featured in the National Speech and Debate magazine called Rostrum, coming in February, and will be recognized at the National Speech and Debate Contest in Dallas in June. All right, and our final recognition is from Wagner High School. They know what I'm about to talk about here. The football team at Wagner High School made history this year. The Thunderbirds went 13-2 and made it to the state semifinals for the first time, and let it be known that Wagner aims to be in the postseason for years to come. The hard work and dedication the T-Birds have invested have brought them farther than any other previous football team. These members are Elijah Balderas, senior, plays defensive tackle, varsity letterman, part of the defensive line that had 5 shutouts. Noe Diaz, senior, 2-year letterman, Week 1 Ken's Army Strong Award All-District Team, played in the Texas All-Star Game. Greg Steptoe. Why don't you guys raise your hand there so I can, whenever I call your name. Noe Diaz, senior, 2-year letterman, Week 1 Ken's Army Strong Award, All-District First Team, played in the Texas All-Star Game. Greg Steptoe, senior, plays linebacker, 2-year letterman, All-District First Team, honorable mention All-State, and played in the Texas All-Star Game. Tobias Weaver, senior, plays quarterback. 2-year letterman, Week 3 Player of the Week, Vipe Magazine Offensive Player of the Year, All-District First Team, and played in the San Antonio All-Star Game. DeMarcus Hendricks, Jr., plays defensive end, 2-year letterman, led the district in interceptions, All-District First Team, All-City, honorable mention All-State. And Rafael Zertucci, Jr., plays offensive line, 2-year letterman, All-District First Team, and All-City. And then there's L.J. Butler, sophomore. Running back, 2-year letterman, All-District First Team, All-City Player of the Game for Regional Champions, and All-Vipe First Team. Can all the parents, if family members are here, can you stand up? Thank you very much. And then there are coaches: Desmond Battle, secondary coach; Brandon Callies, slots coach and head baseball coach; Adam Lopez, the FCA huddle leader and assistant offensive line coach and assistant baseball coach; and Coach Charles Bruce, head football coach; and Express News Football Coach of the Year.
Squeeze it a little tighter, guys, on the hand over here. Squeeze it together. There you go. All right, everybody set those bets in, all right? Hold it. All right, thank you.
I know I speak not only for Judson ISD and as your superintendent, for the entire community. You made us proud. I think these are important. They are. But what I saw out in the field, every time you played, were men that were humble, that put their heart and soul into something. And that's what matters the most. And I strongly believe that also comes from our coaches. Yes. Most people did not know that Coach Bruce was the coach of the year, because that's how humble he is. So thank y'all so much for everything y'all did for our boys and for our school district and our community. And thank you for playing the way you played. We're proud of you. So I think that everybody can notice that our boardroom looks a little bit different today. Today, our boardroom is a celebration room, a room that we celebrate some individuals that give of their time constantly, that give their commitment to make Judson ISD the premier school district. Most people don't know how hard board members work. And here at Judson ISD, we have some board members that work very hard, and I am honored to be part of your team. So I thank you. So you see the wall that was created for you, and I think they did a fabulous job because all our students took part in this, and they have these wonderful creations that they made, and we thank you for planting the seeds of success, and all the gifts are for you because we all thank you for everything you do. And we do have a certificate for you. Do you want to read them out for me, and then I'll hand them out? And then we'll take a group picture. Perfect.
Ms. Renee Pashal. Ms. Deborah Eaton. Ms. Susan Canoyer. Mr. Jose Macias, Jr. Mr. Richard LaFoyle. And Ms. Jennifer Rodriguez.
All right, big smile. 1, 2, 3, hold it. Fantastic, thank you.
And those are our recognitions for this evening.
At this time, I just want to let everybody know that everybody is very welcome to stay. Very welcome to stay. But that was the best part of the evening. But if you want to stay, you're very welcome. But if you have better things, we understand. Please do. Please do. Thank you.
Jesse Cortinas, if you're out there, as you can see, I've already messed up. So I don't know if the roll call,
The roll call took.
it took,
Yeah,
okay,
You're good.
okay.
You're good. So you just do discussion.
And I gotta remember to do this. Last time I didn't do it at all. Oh, okay. All right, we will move on to item 4, consideration of consent items. We do not have any visitors that signed up to speak. And I'd also like to ask, are there any dignitaries in the audience? I don't want to miss recognizing if there are any dignitaries in the audience, other than our wonderful staff. Okay. Item A, and if there are any items, board members, that you would like to pull, just let me know as I read them. Item A, consider and take action regarding approving the minutes from the regular board meeting held December the 20th, 2018. B, consider and take action regarding approving monthly financial information as of December 31st, 2018. C, consider and take action regarding approving the cash investment report for all funds as of December the 31st, 2018. D, consider and take action regarding approving expenditures equal to or greater than $50,000. Item E, consider and take action regarding approving amendment to the budget for the 2019 fiscal year. Item F, consider and take action regarding approving the... Okay. Approving the ranking of the submittals for the request for proposal 19-11 for a consultant to evaluate the curriculum and instruction program at Judson ISD. Ms. Eaton, was there something that, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Item G,
I'm sorry, since I messed up in the poll, but you just read item F?
yes, sir, and you wanted that pulled?
I want the poll.
Yes,
But I meant to pull E, the fiscal year 19.
okay. So
Both of them, E,
D, E, and F.
yes,
Okay, all righty.
thank you.
Item G, consider and take action regarding approving the member representative for the Property Casualty Alliance of Texas.
Pull,
Item H, consider and take action regarding approving a proclamation to declare January 2019 School Board Recognition Month. Item I, consider and take action regarding approving a proclamation to declare February 2019 Career and Technical Education Month. Item J, consider and take action regarding approving a proclamation to declare February the 4th through the 8th, 2019, National School Counseling Week. The theme, School Counselors, Providing Lessons for Life. Item K, consider and take action regarding approving the certified list of appraisers for the 2018-2019 school year. Item L, consider and take action regarding approving the 2019-2020 instructional calendar. Item M, consider and take action regarding approving the Judson Early College Academy school calendar for the 2019-2020 school year. Item N, consider and take action to order a regular trustee election for District 1 and at-large Place 6 and at-large Place 7 on May the 4th, 2019. May I hear, is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Macias, second.
Second.
But Mr. LaFoille? All those in favor say aye. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. So item A, B, C, H, I, J, K, L, M, and N were approved unanimously. Item D, consider and take action regarding approving expenditure equal to or greater than $50,000. Mr. Macias?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Ball, this item is for, with the Brandon Company, and the expenditure is $266,863 for the purchase of a replacement chiller at Spring Meadows, which obviously is very necessary. We're using local funds as opposed, talk to me a little bit about it, I guess.
Sure. So the chiller at Spring Meadows has gone out, and we are having to replace that because, as you said, it is a needed item. So that was not something that was budgeted for, so we're having to use local funds to pay for that item.
And it looked like that on the surface. I just always need to make sure before I just assume. My question, though, to follow up on that is, I guess, the longevity of the chiller itself. How long have we utilized it? When was the last time? Just for my own sanity, to know that we are getting maximum output from that. Can you give any background on that?
Sure. So I assume you mean the one that we're purchasing, like what's the
No.
lifetime warranty?
No, the
Oh.
one that we're replacing.
Oh,
How
how-
long did it last? Was it, I mean, just, I want to know if there's some thought.
Right. I don't know, but I will ask Mr. Atkins if he knows. If not, we could ask somebody else, or ask Mr. Atkins.
Yeah, I think Mr. Yacklin's here, but 18 years is what I was thinking.
So,
But
so,
that
and
would-
I think we've had discussion before about the life expectancy of this item. Do we know more or less what that should be? I mean, I want to know how much further we got out of it than
So we'll ask Mr. Yaklin to give us some information on how long do chillers go for?
You want to know what was the lifespan expected?
Yeah,
on
I
it?
just want to know just to get, because when I'm talking to,
We really try to get 20 years out of a chiller. The
Okay.
issue with this chiller is, it's on the old refrigerant with the refrigerant R22, which they no longer make that refrigerant. So doing that, the cost to repairs plus with the old refrigerant, the cost effectiveness was to go with a new chiller to upgrade to the new refrigerant. Because the R22 is just costing us a lot of money to replace each degree of refrigerant in that chiller.
and the long end to that question is that when we realize the life expectancy of any of our equipment or facilities, we typically go for infrastructure improvement bonds at some point. I would imagine that some of this could be allocated to forecasting when these items might go out. So we're not using local funds. We're potentially using bond dollars that are paid for possibly in a no-tax increased infrastructure bond.
Yes,
And we have it allocated, so we know we need to change it out.
Yes, sir.
It's better to be ahead of the game rather than reactionary, because we're losing, I'm not saying losing, it's a good expenditure, but $266,000 from local funds
Yes.
as opposed from bonds is a big difference. So I'd like to know that we're looking at life expectancy of our equipment so that we can plan better. And so I imagine that would fall back on you for us to look at a little bit better. All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
You may now proceed to vote. Okay. Vote passed 6-0. Item E, consider and take action regarding approving amendment to the budget for the 2019 fiscal school year. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Mr. LaFoille, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Canoyer? Mr. Macias?
And I'll be honest, I'm human. I made a mistake. I pulled it from the previous item, and that actually addressed the question. So this
Okay.
item is not needed to be
Well,
pulled.
let us proceed to vote then. Vote passes 6-0. Item F, consider and take action regarding approving the ranking of the submittals for the request for proposal 19-11 for a consultant to evaluate the curriculum and instruction program at Judson ISD. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Mr. LaFoille, and second? Ms. Eaton. Mr. Macias?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Ball, I have a couple of questions regarding this item. Right now, it looks like we have two vendors that submitted an RFP for services. And so one of them is the Rebecca Robinson Educational Services that scored 78, and then Blocker Educational Research, LLC, which scored 77. But what really caught my interest was the differential in pricing. You have the Rebecca Robinson Group priced at $93,280, but the Blocker Ed Research LLC at $24,450. So, and the point differential being 1 point difference, it just means we're close. So talk to me a little bit about that. I want to get a better understanding of the selection to go with the much more expensive vendor as opposed to the one that was going to do potentially the same service with only a 1 point difference for $24,000. So can you add a little bit to that, please?
Yes. So in evaluating both of the individuals and both of the services, one of them stood out above the rest in regards to the experience that the individual we're recommending has, this individual has the experience, has actually done the level of work that I am requesting, has the background knowledge, has served in the various capacities that I am needing. So it was a different more in regards to a person that probably has more of the philosophical knowledge than what I was looking for, somebody that has the experience and the practical experience of getting the job done.
Okay. And when we look at our detailed scorecard, I guess they can't give max points, or they did in that area. What did LLC score in terms of the same item? If you're looking at experience, because when you look at the criteria on the detailed scorecard, it'll give points to things like experience, and I'm just trying to
Right,
figure.
so-
Yeah. So for LLC, they scored, I guess what I'm looking for was it huge. You have 20 points in one category for,
Right, so,
Go
sorry, I
ahead.
don't mean to interrupt,
No,
but
go right ahead.
there's 20 points in one category versus 7 points in the other category. So right there, where there was a huge difference in that. There was also a difference from 20 points to 15 points, so there was also a difference there.
okay. And so that was part of the area. Now, Ms. Robinson is being paid right now as a consultant, or is this contingent? Is this the payment for her
Right.
services?
Right, so at the beginning of the school year, Ms. Robinson started with us as a consultant. She has never been brought on as an employee, it's always been through a consultant. So the reason we're here at this time is because, as you know, once you start to exceed or come close to the $50,000, then we have to have the board approval. So this could exceed the $50,000, so we're asking for the board to approve her continued work.
So how much have we paid to date? Because then the 93,000 wouldn't be the expenditure. It's going to be up to that 93,000?
Correct,
And
not-
up until June, I imagine?
Yes,
Until-
June.
So we've arrived at that $50,000 threshold?
No, we haven't arrived at it yet, but I know we will be arriving at it.
Okay, and so, and I know obviously we have a vacancy in the position, so it shouldn't be new money, because normally if we
Correct.
had that vacancy filled. My last question, and it's delicate, and so please, Ms. Robinson, take no offense by the question, but during the procurement process, which occurred, we're seeing it in the January agenda, so it must have occurred recently, having a consultant or an employee close to administrators that they work with, what do you think about that possibly compromising or being in conflict? Just give me your thought. You know where I'm going with this, so.
I think I do. They weren't involved in that committee, so I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, who was on the committee.
That would be what I'd like to know.
Myself, Mr. Atkins, JJ was not there that day, so I'm trying to remember who, Ms. Trevino, yes, thank you. And then also, Ms. Davis did give me some input, but she did not attend the meeting.
Okay. Those were my general questions. Like I said, it just was a big difference, and I know that the quality of work that Ms. Robinson does is really well. I mean, it's good stuff, but the price difference is honestly what really grabbed my attention. So, all right, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
At this time, you may proceed to vote. All right, motion passed, 6-0. And I neglected, ladies and gentlemen, to let you know that I did not read the proclamations. I know you're probably accustomed. Dr. Salinas always read the proclamations. But these proclamations, now that all documents are on our website, you can find these proclamations on the website in the board book and read them extensively at your leisure. That's why I didn't read them. Thank you. Okay, we will move on now to discussion and consideration of action items. Item A,
Did I pull the one, number 53?
no,
I didn't
sir,
pull-
you only pulled the 3 on the front side.
I thought I had pulled G. Did I? I pulled G.
Oh, I am so sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the consent items, item G, consider and take action regarding approving the member representative for the Property Casualty Alliance of Texas. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Macias, seconded by Mr. LaFoille. Go right ahead, Mr. Macias.
Dr. Ball, we have, and I guess help me understand what member representative means. What are we doing here?
Yes. So in the past, this was something that Mr. Elizondo was part of. So he was the one that took care of this. Since his retirement, it is customary that the CFO is on there. So we'd like to add, delete Mr. Elizondo and add Mr. Atkins.
So it's more just a procedural
Formality.
step.
Yes.
And so I guess that's it. That's simple enough. Thank you.
You may proceed to vote. And the motion passes 6-0. Now we will move on. And congratulations, Mr. Atkins. Now we will move on to discussion, consideration of action items. Item A, consider and take possible action regarding approving the reclassification of number of workdays for core subject curriculum and instruction specialists. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Canoyer, seconded by Mr. LaFoille. Dr. Ball?
Excuse me. So one of the things that we want to work on this summer is building our curriculum. And what we have done in the past is we have worked really close with Region 20. And if you remember, many years ago, it was called C-Scope. And people probably still remember it as C-Scope, and now it's called Texas Resource System. So what we would like to do is have our own individuals build our curriculum, develop the pacing guides, the assessment. We want to make sure that the voices of our teachers are heard, and we want to do this work in the summer. So the curriculum specialist will be guiding that work along with representation from teachers. They will also be guiding the work having to do with new teacher training, not only the planning for the training, but the implementation of the training. So what we would like to do is have our curriculum specialist work more days in order to get this done. I don't think longer days, I think they already work pretty long days, but more days. This would still be a cost savings to the district because we would no longer have the contract with Region 20. We would be doing this on our own. So I'd like to see if there's any questions that maybe I could answer.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Macias? Okay. Ms. Rodriguez?
So I had a couple of questions. So I assume that that this would be then written, because the extra days wouldn't be coming into effect until the next fiscal year, is that correct? Or that some of them it would kind of like straddle it?
No, we actually need for them to start now.
Oh, okay.
When I say now, I mean this summer. We need the work to begin this summer so we
Right.
can prepare for the fall.
Okay, but it would have some budget impact for this, because our budget ends on June 30th,
Yes.
correct? So it would kind of, half of it would be on this year's budget and half of it would be on next year's?
Correct.
Okay.
And
Oh, yeah.
And the way we would be handling that is that there's been several positions at central office that we haven't filled, so we would be able to use some of those funds
Right.
to cover that.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, are we still giving them some days off in the summer, and how many would this be comparable to like a principal's schedule? I
They
forget
would,
how many days
I think
everybody
it's
has.
12, but I do not want anybody to quote me as to how many days they will still get. 10? Oh, 6.
Okay,
6.
short summer. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Macias?
Yes, Dr. Ball, you mentioned a savings. I know that when this agenda item, it's indicating that $19,419 would be utilized from our funding, but title would be $9,709. So the grand total is the 19,000 or 19 from the local?
The grand total is 19,000 plus the 9,000.
Okay, so 28,
29.
29,000.
And The cost, what we've been spending right now for Region 20, it's about almost $140,000.
Which is what I wanted to get to, because that information is not on, at least I didn't see it on the packet.
No,
for
sir,
the
it's not.
rationale. So that 140, I'd like to know what we're getting, because again, that's wonderful that we're saving 140,000, we're only spending 29,000. But now I need to ask, what services are we getting for 140,000? Because that's such a huge difference. And so if we could have that information, that would give the board a better understanding of what we're buying from Region 20 at 140,000, and then what we're going to get for 29, if it's going to be comparable.
Sure. So I'm going to give you the small version now, but I could always give you the full thing of what you get.
Sure.
So
Whatever works.
the small version is that, picture a large database on the computer where all this information is held. So regardless of what content you teach, you can go in there and see a math lesson, have a scope and sequence of what your math lesson should consist of for, let's say you're a third grade teacher, whatever grade teacher you're at. You'd also have some assessments on there. So it has what we call the scope and sequence of what that teacher in that grade level and in that content should be teaching. And now what I'm asking is for these individuals to develop that. So that's the short version, but I can give you a whole longer explanation of everything that the TEACS resource gives.
So, and again, please forgive me as I'm just trying to get a better grasp on it. Some of my colleagues might already, they've lived and breathed this. I don't live and breathe it, but I just want to make sure I understand. So in Region 20, they're doing all these assessments and scope and sequence, as you had mentioned. That's derived, where do they get that information to do that work? Is it from TEA, from TASB?
It was a product that I think originally, Region 12 might have developed it, and they went into a partnership. So it was a product that was developed jointly with other individuals that they bought, and then in turn sold it to school districts. Several school districts bought into it and continue to use it, and a lot of the ones that had bought into it are no longer using it.
Okay. And I guess in your opinion, this move not only would save funding, but be a stronger outcome for us in terms of what we need done?
Yes, and the reason for that is because of several individuals have, and I should say teachers, the ones that use it a lot, have said that it's cumbersome, not user-friendly, that there's so much information that it's not easy to pick and pull what they want to use. They'd rather have something that they developed that they know will work for them.
And just so it's on record, the $29,000 that we're spending involves all the costs. There won't be any other peripheral logistics or curriculum or anything else that will be needed to support their efforts? Yes or no?
Probably not, because, for example, all the things go into supporting these efforts. We're doing a new textbook adoption. So with that textbook adoption, we'll probably be looking at different items for ELAR to purchase. So this is a tool that will be able to complement all the other things that we will be doing.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Ms. Canoyer?
Thank you. Mr. Macias, if I can address you. You know, this is my thing. As a curriculum specialist, I was in the position when we moved from having our own curriculum to C-Scope. And at that time, the reasoning was that we had a whole lot of new teachers. We were very limited in the number of people who could continue with some of the trainings that were needed, and so to provide a curriculum that teachers could access. However, we quickly found out that it's extremely paper-heavy, and speaking for elementary ELAR, it did not match how we taught ELAR in the elementary school. It didn't address, it was very basal-driven, and we are a guided reading and reading workshop group, and it did not fit with that philosophy, and so it was kind of a waste of money for that. And then because the money went to that and not to some of the training, then we developed kind of a schism in our teachers who didn't have the training to do what they needed to do, and so they relied more on that didn't fit the philosophy. And so it's caused some issues, I think, along the way in terms of teacher capability. But if you ask any teacher and you ask them what it took to print out a lesson, and they had to print 12, 15 pages for one day's lesson, it's not user-friendly at all in that way. Also, some of the evaluation instruments that are in there are not, in my opinion, not very well written and cause some problems in trying to use those to plan instruction.
Well, thank you, Ms. Knoyer. And the reason I asked the question earlier about who writes because obviously I'm thinking the resources that they're getting are top-notch, but if we're able to do it ourselves and do it less cost and just as effective, that's fine. But that's where I was coming from in terms of we're trying to collaborate. So I see this really as just going inward, which isn't a bad thing if it's done right. But just having to ask that question, are we potentially losing quality? It doesn't sound like we are. It looks like you've done your work in terms of that. My last follow-up, though, would be the efficiency study. I know that we've had an HR audit, and we've talked about personnel and the efficiency of the personnel. Has there been a study on our curriculum specialists to ensure that we're getting maximum effort from them? Because when we look at potential reduction of days, I think last year I recommended that we look at some of our specialists, people who are not in the classroom, to potentially reduce their days because they're typically paid at a higher pay scale than our teachers. So we're looking to find ways to reduce cost. So has there been an efficiency study so that we can ensure that the specialists are being utilized in the most effective manner?
Yes, sir. We look at those individuals and lots of other individuals. So we will have some information to share with that as we get closer to doing our budget workshops.
I just want to add one more thing. For teachers, Mr. Macias, these specialists are the best things since sliced bread. Our specialists really are. And as long as teachers are able to buy in and have input in the curriculum, it'll be great. All right, if there's no further discussion, we'll move on to item 6, excuse me. Oh, I'm so sorry, yes. Let us vote. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Excuse me, audience, I'm still a rookie at this. Item 5B, consider and take we will do that in closed session. That is on new hires. We will move on to item 6, discussion items and reports. Item A, superintendent report, construction report. Dr. Ball?
Yes, I'm very excited that everybody got to go and see Wortham Oaks. There's still a few things that we have to do, but it's coming along and it's looking really good. We have some faculty and staff that are moving in tomorrow. And then what we've also allotted for the teachers to support and help them is next week they will get some substitutes so then they can start moving in. I think the open house is on Thursday, and February 4th the kids arrive, so we're very excited about that. So that's my construction update, unless anybody has any specific questions about Wortham Oaks.
All right. We'll move on. Item B, revision of MOU between Judson Education Foundation and Judson ISD. Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am. At some of the previous board meetings, we have discussed the foundation providing formal reports or more often to the board. So that is what this is about in regards to the foundation would be coming on a regular basis to the board to provide those reports.
And those would be the quarterly reports, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in between monthly, our liaison, Ms. Canoyer, will give us reports?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
And if I could put a plug in, please remember that on Saturday is our gala casino. So if anybody would like to attend, you could still purchase tickets. We welcome anybody from the audience that also would like to attend. Lexi's here, so you can please see Lexi. She's right in the back. She'd be happy to sell you some tickets, yes.
Yeah, y'all come. All right, item 6C, innovative schedule for all high schools. Dr. Ball?
Yes, we have a team of individuals that have worked really hard on this. So very proud of the team. Several individuals will be sharing information. Not only do you have a copy of this, it's also on a PowerPoint, so you do have that. The team, just to give you a little bit of knowledge, the team has visited some school districts that are A school districts, or B school districts, and school districts that are doing some great things. So what they did is they went and visited 3 different districts, and took the best part of everything that they saw to develop this plan. So Ms. Robinson, I'll let you start it, and I know you have a team of individuals, and this is the small team. Because every time they had a meeting, there was at least 20 people or more. So this is just the small team, but there was lots of individuals that worked on this.
So, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Ball. Good evening, Madam President, board members, and of course, Dr. Ball. And tonight we're coming to you to do a presentation on basically a transition from the traditional schedule to an innovative schedule. And so I call it an innovative schedule because there's a lot of 5x5s that are out there, but we really went and looked at research, and we went and looked at what is working at some school districts and what is not working at some school districts. And we basically tailored the innovative schedule to meet the needs for Judson ISD. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and simply by just providing you some background information. I'm a teacher. I'm so used to walking around, and being behind a mic is not good. So let me start by giving you the background information. So we actually started this process of looking into an innovative schedule, and basically because we wanted to offer our students opportunities to do more, opportunities to achieve more, and also opportunities for the school district and the schools to actually achieve higher scores. And so one of the basic things that we really need to look at is that it allows the students to take up to 10 courses within a school year. The expectation is not for kids to earn 40 credits, but simply to have opportunities to get more endorsements and to be able to have more opportunities in case they fall behind or need to get ahead. It's not the traditional 4x4 that you are used to, like the 4 and 4x4 block, which is the A-B block, which is very expensive. And so we took away from that, and knowing how we did the innovative schedule, there's no additional staff needed, and there's no additional cost, okay? So I know that it's a budget crunch, so one of the things that we look at is, okay, how is that going to affect our budget? Well, we're not asking for additional teachers. We're going to do with what we have. There are a lot of accelerated schedules that are used there. They're not the same. So like I'm telling you, one of the things that we did is we looked at the best that is out there, and we tailored it specifically for Judson ISD and the 3 comprehensive schools. I know that one of the things that it was in everybody's mind is how is it going to affect athletics? It's actually not going to affect athletics because the courses that we have are year-round, and actually it's probably going to fall within 3rd period, most of the athletics courses, which actually is a 90-minute block. So instead of having the regular 55-minute block, it's actually going to increase to a 90-minute block, okay? So with that in mind, as I told you earlier before, we went to look at several high schools using the innovative schedule. And one of the things that we were very interested in is just basically looking at the data. Okay, so what is the data telling us? Because we don't want to make decisions just based because it's a gut feeling or we like it, it's from the heart. It's not. It's about looking at data, looking at ourselves, and just, okay, so what is it that they're doing that's working that can help us to improve our scores. So one of the first schools that we went to visit was United High School in Laredo, Texas. They have been doing this for, I don't know, probably like 10 years, 12 years, something like that. I want you to look at the number of distinctions that they have. Actually, I was extremely impressed with their mathematics and their move towards engineering. It's amazing how many kids are scoring extremely well in the area of mathematics. Notice that their scores, their student achievement scores, are in the 80s and in the 90s, okay? And so you look at when you look at our accountability, you're looking at the STAR achievement, the student achievement, the STAR performance, the college career and military readiness, and the graduation rate. And so notice again that they're in the 80s and the 90s. When we went to visit Eagle Pass High School, I think Eagle Pass has probably been doing this for about 5 years, maybe 6 years. Notice their distinctions as well. You know, theirs is in language arts, social studies, and then the comparative academic growth, and also closing the gap. And do notice their achievements are basically in the 80s. Their graduation, and I will tell you, is a 70. And one of the things that, you know, I got pulled aside by the high school principal, and he says, I'm not happy with that graduation rate because there was PEIMS errors, and the PEIMS errors cost us to have this graduation rate. And I was just like, I get it. And he goes, we were in between directors, and so we missed some things. And I said, and I get it. I want you to, so we looked at the two high schools. They're in the 80s, they're in the 90s, okay, where are we? And so we took a look at ourselves, and basically, this is what we found, okay? Judson High School, the overall score is a 68, has no distinctions, and notice where their scores are. We're in the 60s and we're in the 70s at Judson, okay? We take a look at Wagner High School, and they're 69, they have no distinctions at this point. And I want you to, again, to look at their student achievement. They're in the 60s, and they have one star performance at 72. Then we went and looked at Veterans Memorial High School. Their overall score was a 77. They did have two distinctions, one in English Language Arts and Reading, and the other in Social Studies. And notice their distinctions. It's a brand new school, so they only had two things that they could actually be held accountable for, and they're in the 70s, okay? So based on that data, you know, we asked ourselves a couple of questions. Did you have a question?
Yes.
Absolutely.
When you get to the end of this slide, and then I'll ask the question.
Okay. And well, actually, I was just going to tell you, so based on the data that we looked at, we asked ourselves several things, okay? So what additional data do we need to look at? And then I'm going into the next slide. So I'll stop right there.
So one question I had when I looked at this slide beforehand was,
Sure.
I know it's hard to compare because the state accountability system is constantly shifting, and 10 years
Absolutely.
ago it was different.
Yes,
But I guess, like, what is causing you to conclude that the innovative schedule, or their version of an innovative schedule, is underlying these results? Because there could be a ton of things that lead to
Well,
this.
and actually, we're going to talk about the advantages of it in the next couple of slides, but I can just simply tell you that the longer period that we are actually addressing on the EOC is actually giving the kids more opportunities for learning time. And so to us, that was a huge key. And so, and I'll give you the example of Eagle Pass. Eagle Pass is you can compare Judson to Eagle Pass. Basically, Judson is just a little bigger than Eagle Pass is. The same demographics around that area. But even though Eagle Pass, and it's a border city, and they get all these kids coming in from Mexico, and trust me, I used to work there, so I would see the students coming in. Notice that what they did, and they had their EOCs all year long, what they were able to do. And so I asked John Cox, and I said, John, where are you as far as your individual scores? And he basically told me, Beck, we're in the 80s in writing. And he goes, and I'm not happy. He goes, we're kind of like hitting 79, 80. But everything else, their biology, their social studies, their algebra was in the 90s. And so, okay, so I said, John, what are you doing? He goes, it's about the gift of learning time. It's about giving kids the opportunity. He goes, because you know what, when we were doing the 7-period schedule, what was happening was kids would go, and they'd go to second period, and you'd ask them at the end of the 7th period, what did you do second period? They couldn't tell you. So with the block, with the 5x5, you're spending 80, well, we actually are doing 75 and 90 minutes. That gives you a lot of time to really do some solid teaching and be able to pull kids and work with individual kids or small groups and provide them the individualized attention that you truly need in order to make an impact on students.
What was the source? You had cited sources, so what source did you use to pull this data?
So this particular, I went to TA website, and that's
Okay.
where I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so we actually went and looked at the Judson ISD demographic for the 3 comprehensive schools. So I'm just talking simply about Judson High School, Wagner, and Veterans Memorial, okay? So we have a total population of 6,788 students as of when we pulled this data, which was probably last week. I think that's when we pulled the data. Economically disadvantaged, we're at 61.89%. That makes our high school population. Our Hispanic is at 55.4%, our African American are at 24.2%, our white are 14.6%, our Asian are 2.4%, our special education population is falling at 11.8%, our ELs, our English language learners, are falling at 5.4%, and then we also took a long, hard look at CATE. And so CATE is actually servicing 4,699 students at the time that we pulled this information, which makes it at 69%. Okay? So based on this data, then we took a look at academic trends. Okay, so where are we as far as academic trends is concerned? So we looked at the number of students that failed EOC, and this is according to the spring 2018 administration, okay? So in English 1, we actually had 857 students that failed English 1. We had 698 that failed English 2, 355 that failed Algebra 1, 240 that failed biology, and 126 that actually failed, U.S. history. Then we took a look at our AP classes, because remember that in this innovative schedule, it's not just about servicing the kids that are staying behind, but it's about pushing the kids that are advanced. You want them to have those opportunities to go even further. So we stopped and looked at, okay, where are we with our AP credits and our dual credits? So right now, we're basically servicing for dual credits 17.7% of our population. Dual credit for CATE, it's at 3.5%. AP is at 18.4%, and our IB class is actually 13 students and at less than 1%. So that made us go back and really think about, okay, what kind of opportunities can an innovative schedule offer our students, not only for remediation, but also for advancement, okay? And so I'm going to turn the next part of this portion over to Mary Duhart-Toppin so that she can talk to you about the advantages. But let me just tell you one thing that, and I live by this, and Dr. Ball knows this, that I have always been involved in change, and I'm a person that always looking for how can we do things better for kids, because that is my passion. My passion is what can we do for kids, and what opportunities, how can we make things better for kids. And so, you know, sometimes we just stop and we try to do the same things over and over and over again, and we're expecting different results. And we just can't seem to move that wheel around. And so I'm going to go back to that famous quote that Albert Einstein said. You know, the definition of insanity is basically doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so when we stopped and we looked at ourselves, it's like, okay, what are we doing? And we keep trying to do, and we're still not moving ourselves forward, not like we should and we want to. So what can we possibly do so that we can transform ourselves and give our kids more opportunities and just make Judson a powerhouse in academics? And so with that thought, I turn it over to Mary.
Thank you, Dr. Ball and board members, for this opportunity to address this. And I'm having my coach stand behind me because we're on the same page as far as this is concerned. It's a team approach. And so what I wanted to start saying is that I've always been one about change. So I've been the big voice in the room when we've been talking about this, and sometimes, not agreeing with everybody, because I believe that in that quote, that we can't keep doing what we're doing and expecting us to move. And I know that we can be the academic powerhouse that I can see it already. And that is the vision that I have for Wagner High School. I joke around with my counterparts at Judson and at Veterans and tell them, I'm gunning for you, I'm coming for you. Because I believe that, if you're gonna do something, be the best at what you can do. And so I've been really a strong voice for and support of this. And so when I look at it from the campus level, and that's where I wanna talk about, as a principal of a high school that has a history of struggling, as a principal of a high school that has challenges, and really looking at what we're doing to best serve our students. When I look at it, I'm looking at it from the standpoint, what are we doing to help our teachers teach to the best of their ability? What kind of quality teaching are we having going on, and what type of quality learning do we have going on? And when we're talking about improving teaching and learning, you know that time is of an essence. And so giving these teachers the time to not only work on their lesson plans, but actually use that planning and preparation time for the intent that it was meant to be. And given the opportunities to come up with innovative lessons, to come up with creative lessons and pull out, we talk about technology all the time, that we have students from the microwave age, but what are we doing in our classrooms to address that? And and that takes time to actually plan those lessons and really look for those resources and bring that into the building. Also, giving time for students to work on projects. One of the things that when you read Bill Daggett and you read the works of John Hattie, they talk about kids being able to work in groups, being able to work on teams, being able to articulate, communicate, and those type of skills have to be developed in the setting of a school. But if you don't have time, some of those what we call soft skills sometimes get pushed to the side, and then we're graduating kids that are unable to go out into society and really function in a career, function in the military, or function at a college level because they haven't learned those soft skills, and we have to hone that at the campus level. Also, the increase in time, I cannot say it enough. Our teachers work hard. And a lot of times they're up at the schools on Saturday working. They're there at 8 o'clock in the evening. It's not unusual for me to go by my first-year teachers and kick them out of the building. Like, you can't get everything done. It's going to be here tomorrow. But because they want to do such a great job, they are staying. But if we give them the quality time during the day, we can actually give them some time back for their families. And that's one of the things. Happy home, happy teacher, happy workplace. And then allowing that, having a longer class period for completions of those things. I'm a big believer in project-based learning. I know that that's a big focus at JSTEM and also at TSTEM. But project-based learning is the reality of the world that our kids are going into. And we have to provide them the exercise in doing that. And that comes with planning for that. Those project-based learning projects do not just happen, by magic. The teacher has to work to make those scenarios and those things happen in the classroom. The other thing I want to talk about is our students. I know we spend a lot of time because, accountability is always going to be there. We talk a lot of time about our kids that are struggling to be successful about where they are. And then we talk about what are we going to do. The reality is that a lot of our kids need to stay for tutorials but cannot. They need to come to Saturday school or all the extra programs that we're spending money, and we're looking at the attendance at those programs, and we're not reaching every child still. And then on the other end of that, and I'm very passionate about special ed students because I have a special ed son, and I'm very passionate about, is he getting his needs met? And then I have a daughter on the other end of the spectrum that's a GT kiddo that will make A's and that'll push herself as hard as she needs to. And so as a principal, I'm thinking about my own children. Are we servicing every child that comes into our campus? Are we giving them what they need? And we all know that some children take time to learn. And you got to have that time. They need that one-on-one time. They need that one-on-one time with teachers. They need the small group instruction. And they have to be able to experience that in the classroom. And when you're sitting in a classroom of 30, I don't care how hard you try, sometimes a kid will fall through the cracks. And so having the time in the schedule to actually pull a kid in a small group at a secondary level. I know our elementary teachers do it all the time, but it's like a non-issue at secondary. You know, you talk about small groups and people are like, I don't have time to do that, because it really takes the opportunity to get the kids that can go and move on, and then pulling those kids and working with them one-on-one and giving them the attention that they need. Also, we talk about, you know, the shock that kids have when they come into middle school, the shock that they have when they come into high school, because I now have core class after core class after core class, and the accountability has gone up, the depth of knowledge I have to have has gone up, and though some kids get just overwhelmed just walking in the door. And so now you've got 4 core subjects, you got to do all of this, and you have to have the time for them to get it. And so we're looking at if we can reduce the number of classes kids have. Give them 5 a year instead of 7 a year, and use term, and you make them earn credit at December and in May. Then if we can do that, kids will have the opportunity to really get the depth of knowledge that they need in all of their classes if the teacher have the time to provide it to them. Reduce the fragmentation of the instructional time. I'm not reading directly from the slides because I don't like when people do that to me, so I'm talking from my notes. And so we reduce the fragmentation of instructional time. A lot of times you start a lesson, and I know the teachers in the room will agree, you start a lesson and you get to the end and you have to stop because you ran out of time, and you hope they remember when they come back. Going into this type of innovative scheduling will allow you to do a full lesson cycle in a day, and then actually build upon that the next day, instead of I started this yesterday and I may have to go back and reteach because you forgot it as soon as you walk out of the room. Less transition times for kids. They're only going to be transitioning 4 times instead of 6. And we're losing a significant amount of time every transition period. So that's time we can get back in the classroom. The other thing we want to talk about is the individualized pacing of the class. And then talking about which kids are advanced students that can take a class and complete a class in 1 term. Instead of sitting in the class, I can offer that student and get them on the track for dual credit, get them on the track for AP, because I feel like if we're going to service every kid, we got to also think about our kids that are at the top and make sure we're providing them with every opportunity to earn college credit before they walk out of the school. And then what are we doing about our kids that are underperforming? They need remediation during the day. But if you're talking about at a high school level, sometimes that gets pushed to the side and we have to remediate them after school because they're in credit trouble. And so we have to keep them on path to graduate because they can't stay with us until they're 22. So sometimes we have to sacrifice one in order to meet the needs on another end. So talking about the innovative schedule allowing us to build the schedule that it best suits the needs of the child. We keep talking about we want an individualized education plan for every student, but you have to have the time in the schedule in order to do that. Talking about collaboration, no teacher teaches on an island by themselves. So is it extremely important? I push this on my campus, and I know that my colleagues do too. They have to have time to collaborate. Your baby teachers learn from veteran teachers. Your master teachers can mentor other teachers, but they got to have time in order to do that. They got to have time for staff development. We don't like keeping teachers after school and keeping them an additional hour past the school day in order to do something. If we had the time in the schedule, you can actually do a professional development class during their planning and preparation period. You have to do true PLC where we're looking at data and looking at our data and looking at where are we still missing kids and what can we do, but that takes time. That takes time. And then making sure that we offer the support that all of our teachers need. Anybody will tell you that if you've been in the teaching field that relationships are key. Kids don't learn from people they don't like. Kids don't learn when they feel like that they're not important or valued. I'm a straight shooter, I'm sorry. Kids don't learn from people that they feel like that are not valuing their time in their classroom. So building relationships with kids is important. This will allow you to develop the time to work again on those soft skills and build those connections with your kids. I think that elementary has that on us. They keep the same kids all year long and they have the time to develop them and whatnot. So we want an opportunity to really look at the work of Bill Daggett, and he talks about rigor and relevance and relationships. You can't forget that piece. And getting to know your students better, not just what you see on the facade, looking behind the mask, and really developing close personal relationships with their students. And then a lot of times if a teacher has, and that's not an anomaly on the screen, high school teachers have sometimes 160 kids a year. That's how a lot of kids to touch and try to build relationships too. So that'll actually give you the time to cut that down and actually build a relationship with the kid that goes beyond just what you're doing in your classroom. The other thing is that having the attitudes of kids and making sure that the kids are getting more in time. And I'm a believer in homework, but sometimes homework infringes on other things. We have a lot of kids that have a lot of busy lives, that are working, that are involved in sports, that are getting home at 7:30, 8:30, 9:30 at night, and then staying up like my daughter does sometimes till 11:30 getting homework done every night. And so what can we do in the classroom that will have true learning going on? Not busy work, true learning going on. And if we have homework, it's an extension of what we've already started in the classroom, and it's really thought out in order to get the kids to where they need to be. Teachers being appreciative of including projects and activities. Again, I'm going back to that project-based learning. Kids learn more when they're doing. And if we're just giving them work just to turn in, they need to have the experience of taking ownership of their own learning. Discipline, we always got to talk about it because it's a mainstay. But basically talking about discipline, if we're not transitioning 6 times a day, it's less time for people to have interactions that are not conducive to learning in the hallways. And then, and then saying that if we build relationships with kids and if we're having them in class a longer period of time, I'm building relationships too. When you walk in the hallway, you're actually know people in your classroom, because there's no time for really a lot of socialization in class, because I got 54 minutes. And I got to hit it when you get in, and I'm probably still talking when you walk out. But if we have the time to really build relationships, maybe kids will get to know each other better because they're in the class with you longer and you're doing project-based learning and whatnot. And then we can show you data to show that there's going to be a decrease in discipline. I know it's going to happen because I've seen it happen before. And so when we're talking about advantages for kids, I'm talking about we're servicing every single child. And we're trying to meet the need of the kids that are at the high end, the advanced kids, the kids that are in the middle of the road and don't know if they want to be advanced. We're trying to get the kids that, you know what, maybe I messed up a little bit my freshman year and I need to recoup some things, but I'm not going to give up on you. You're going to still be able to graduate with your cohort if I can help it. And I think that's the worst thing, when a kid falls out of his cohort and all his kids are graduating that year and he's not able to participate. And he's graduating with people that he has no history with, because he didn't go to middle school with them or go to elementary with them. And so when you're talking about advantages for our students, we're talking about servicing every child that walks in our doors and making sure we're providing them with the opportunities to be successful. Coach Bruce? I wanted you to hear from the athletic side of it.
So with athletics, we're in favor of it. We've worked it out with administration, and not just on the Wagner High School campus, on Judson's campus and veterans as well. And I want everybody to understand that we can't work out for 90 minutes, 5 days a week. That's against UIO rules. So part of the time would be used for study hall and character development. So we give our stamp of approval, we're on board, and we're behind our administration.
Any questions?
Does the board have any questions?
Is that it for the presentation?
No.
No.
Oh,
There's another part.
okay.
I just wanted to move off the slide in case you wanted to ask me about anything I talked about. Okay. I'm giving it to Ceci Davis.
Good evening, board members, Madam Vice President, and Dr. Ball. I want to focus on the considerations for the accountability and testing under an innovative schedule. As we transition to an innovative schedule, we will have the opportunity to decrease the number of tests that our incoming freshmen can take. Currently, all of our graduates need to pass 5 end-of-course exams, but as soon as they transition from middle school to high school, they have to focus on 3 end-of-course courses, and that's biology, algebra 1, and English 1. What we can do is we can shift our course sequence and update it so that our freshmen are able to take science, which would be their biology EOC, in their sophomore year. That gives them the opportunity to just focus on algebra 1 and English 1 during their freshman year. So not only do they emphasize the standards to the master's level, but they're able to just focus on 2 instead of 3 their very first year as they transition to high school, which we all know that is a very tough year. In addition, the end of course exams and the courses, as we discussed, can remain as a full year, but we also have the option of offering them for half a year. When we do that, we're able to allow the students to go beyond just the approaches level when we're talking about accountability. As you know, our new accountability system focuses on just passing, which is called approaches, but the state is pushing for meets and masters to truly be college ready. Well, when we're just in a 54-minute period, like Ms. Toppin said, sometimes we just get to skim the surface. And our teachers need that time to develop the concepts, and the students need time to engage in the concepts. To go beyond just the lower thinking skills, understanding is very simple, but application is difficult. And they need that opportunity to practice in class, under the supervision of teachers that are able to give them the guidance, with their peers, where they're able to collaborate, where they're able to communicate and develop their ideas with one another. And that's the opportunity that the innovative schedule can provide. So another thing that we consider under the accountability and testing is to provide better support for courses in the advanced areas, such as AP courses, offering college-level academic readiness courses known as CELAR courses. And these will be developed in-house, the curriculum, so that we can tailor the needs of what we see traditionally where our students are low performing in certain specific AP subjects. Due to the schedule being freed up, as we know, we are going from 7 to 10 opportunities each year to earn their credit. This gives the students more time for internships and preparation for certifications. Under our accountability system, there are 73 certifications that award us points in our accountability system. When we move to the innovative schedule, we have the ability to then say students can now update their coherent sequence so that they have the opportunity to consider internships, so that they have opportunities to go to jobs, so that they have opportunities to improve their certifications, which we know in a couple of years we're actually increasing the amount of certifications to about 221, if I'm not mistaken. That will allow us greater opportunities as a school district to increase our accountability. And with that, all students have a greater opportunity to earn a distinguished measure, as well as performance acknowledgement under their graduation plans and their endorsements. Continued considerations for not just students who are on level, but we want to consider our students who are advanced or just your average student. Students have the increased opportunities to earn more endorsements and more pathways. Right now, they really are limited to about 1 pathway, but with more opportunities to earn more credits, you're talking about possibly a couple of endorsements or pathways. Additional course offerings within the schedule, such as TSI prep, pre-SAT prep, and SAT prep, not after school, not on Saturday, but within the course schedule. So we're able to offer that at each of the high schools. We also are exploring additional opportunities for all of our students to earn dual credit, to take dual credit or AP courses and have the supports for those courses. Some of the courses, for example, in AP, it's very strategic. We're partnering, and actually the next slide will better show you that. Here's an example of strategic AP scheduling. So you have the option to either take a year-long course AP, which, let's say, for example, we're considering certain courses that are some flagship AP courses where the students would benefit from the length in the year. And what we can do is we can pair them up with a CLAR, such as an independent study. We know those are limited, but that allows the opportunity for the students to really explore the concepts that they need to master for AP. We also can structure some pre-AP courses back-to-back and bottom-up with the AP courses, such as the example that you see here of a pre-AP chemistry butted up to an AP chemistry. This allows the students to explore the concepts in depth to the level of which they will be assessed. And so by doing so, we're able to also offer We're looking at all the spectrums. We're looking at all the children. Our advanced academics are on level, our students who are gifted and talented, but we also are considering the needs of special education students. Some advantages, of course, just by nature of having a longer time period, is the increased academic focus. We're going to be limiting their transition from class to class to class. So when the teacher's able to really engage the students are able to focus academically because they're not going to be transitioning as much. We know that this is important, especially with certain children. We're also able to reduce the number of students in classes. By doing so, what does this offer for our special education students? It'll give them an opportunity to develop a stronger social connection among their peers. It'll give them an opportunity to develop a stronger relationship with their teacher. The teacher's better able gonna know them. And on top of that, they're building their strong sense of community because just by nature of having a smaller classroom, they're gonna get to feel more comfortable with their peers and ask their peers questions. And this is just as important as just content. And finally, we began our co-teach and inclusion model this year, but we're able to expand it next year even more because that co-teacher is able to travel to certain, not just one classroom, but depending on the number of minutes that students need, they can travel to different classrooms and better offer that individualized support. We wanted to share with you the semester schedule for next year, and this is based on our calendar option B. One of the things that the calendar committee worked hard on was to make the terms or the semesters as equal as possible. You can see in the fall semester, the first quarter or the first and second quarter are exactly the same with 42 days. And in the spring semester, it's very, very similar, 1 day apart. Also, if you look at the semesters, once you take away all of the testing days, you're very, very equal in the amount of semesters, which is really important as we're trying to implement a new schedule. And what you see here is a sample of a daily schedule. There's going to be some slight variations from campus to campuses because we have to accommodate larger numbers. We have to accommodate different lunches. But what you see is that 75-minute, 90, 90, 90-minute, and a 75-minute. This allows us to keep the same schedule that we currently have in the high school, but give the students a greater opportunity to go more in depth, the teachers a greater opportunity to develop their concepts, and just overall give every student, every type of student in high school an opportunity to engage and to learn to a master's level.
And so as we looked at the different programs and just looking at everything that we could possibly see that, you know, would impact us or would impact the innovative scheduling, we took a hard look at our CT schedules. One of the things that I can tell you is that when we went to Laredo United and we went to Eagle Pass, and actually we went to Southwest as well, one of the things that we learned was how important the bell schedule was. And so what we learned at Southwest was actually Southwest had a $400,000 loss in CTE, okay? We went to United and they took a loss, but they couldn't tell us exactly how much of a loss, but it was a big loss that they took. I know that in Eagle Pass, when talking to the Kate and also to John, they indicated that they actually lost about $2 million in Kate because of the bell schedule. Their schedules are running 80, 90, 80, okay? So knowing what we know about Kate and the Kate courses, all the funding comes in based on the number of minutes. So you're looking at a V1, which is up to 89 minutes. You're looking at a V2, which is from 90 minutes to 120. And then you're looking at a V3, which is from 120 to and beyond. And those are, your V3s are more like your cosmetology courses where you really have to spend some time in those courses. So we took a look at everything and we're like, there is no way that we can accept to have a loss on Kate. That was just not something that we could possibly do. So we went back and forth on 80, 90, 80, 90, 75, 90, 75, 90. And the bottom line came to this, okay, how can we offer our kids opportunities? How can we improve instruction? And how can we not take a loss on Kate? So what we did was, we actually settled on the 75, 90, 90, 90 minutes, 75. And I can tell you that the Kate department and Renee, I cannot say enough to Renee and her staff. They literally looked at every single course, every single possible thing that they could, change or move so that they could offer kids the best opportunities. What's really neat about the outcome of this all is that, yeah, we will lose 32, there's 33 courses that we will lose funding, local funding, but if you look at the bottom line is that we're actually gaining 101 courses are gaining funding. So we took a loss at 32, but we gained 101, okay? So what does that mean to us, okay? So, and I'm gonna point this out. These are projections, okay? Don't hold me to it because I cannot control enrollment, okay? So these are projections that, based on historical information, we did a great study. I mean, Renee put together a fantastic package, literally just indicating a lot of historical information, type of courses that we were having. And so basically, we're looking at the total FTEs. So right now, in the current 7-period schedule, we're kind of looking at 853 FTEs that we have. In a 90-minute schedule, or that 75, 90, 90, 90, 75, we're actually hoping to gain 1,043. If the trends continue to be what the kids are signing up for, then that is what we are projecting, because there's a lot of courses. There were some courses that we had to move and just make them into term courses. And so there are other courses that we had to say, no, those are gonna have to be year-long courses, or we're gonna have to double up. So I can just only say that the master schedule for Kate is just incredible, because we try to really flip things around so that, in essence, if we do the 75, 90, 90, 90, 75, there is a great possibility that we will actually make over $1 million. So all because we're playing with numbers. And so we're playing with the number of contact hours that kids are having. So we learned from the other districts not to make the same mistake and lose money, but in essence, we were so creative that we're actually going to make money. And that's money that can be, like 58% goes to the district and 42% goes right back to Kate. And so that's money that we can go back and funnel to Kate for additional courses. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about the opportunities for students that would start on the innovative schedule. So I'm going to turn this over to Monica, because scheduling and guidance and all of that is her baby.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Ball. There has been a lot of work put into the scheduling portion of this. High school principals, academic deans, lead counselors, directors, senior staff have had a lot of input on looking at schedules that will have the best opportunity for our students. But tonight we're going to share 2 schedules, because we couldn't bring a sample of every schedule this evening, because it is individualized for every student. So if you look at the first schedule that we're sharing a sample schedule for an advanced student. This student will have the opportunity to get a multidisciplinary endorsement, a fine arts endorsement, 9 AP classes, and 1 dual credit course. So the sample schedule that you have is a schedule of a student starting an innovative schedule in 9th grade. If you see on the bottom of the schedule, their freshman year, they'll have an opportunity to get 8 credits, 9 their sophomore, 9 their junior, and 10 their senior year. So in the beginning of the presentation, we did say that they have an opportunity to get up to 10. Not all students will earn 10 credits. It's all individualized by students. So we won't have students graduating with 40 credits. So this student will have the opportunity to get 36 credits. On the next slide, we have a schedule for an average student that's transitioning from a 7th period schedule, a current student that would be in 9th grade this year, from a 7th period schedule to an innovative schedule next school year. So we have to look at all angles and make sure that we can transition our students correctly. This student currently would have been getting an endorsement in agriculture and cheer. They would have had their elective in cheer. But with the innovative schedule, they can pick up an art endorsement as well too. So they'll be able to add an additional endorsement to this pathway. If you see on the bottom of the schedule, this student currently would have had 7 credits this year for the courses, Next year, for their sophomore year, they can get up to 8. The following year, 7, and then their senior year, 7. It didn't change much on an average student, but every student will look differently. But this gives the student the opportunity with the innovative schedule to get in another endorsement. So how it's fixed the year long. We have worked very hard, this is a small team. There's been a team of principals, academic deans, lead counselors, directors, specialists, senior staff. We've started meeting since October 23rd. This planning started with all of our master schedule planning. So we just listed all of the events and the timeline of the meetings and items that were discussed so that we can ensure that we're prepared. So this is a list of all the meeting dates. And we did have the opportunity, as I stated, to visit 3 different high schools so that we can get all of the positive things and work out all the negative things that had worked out on their scheduling. Scheduling will, like I said, be innovative, and it will help every student, and we will be looking at every student individually. And it still will be efficient, though. The next slide that we have here is questions and answers during the process. This is a little small fine print. This is something that I just shared, that things that were worked on, questions that we began with in the beginning of the process, and the answers that we came up with. This will not be used for parents when we have a Q&A. We will have presentations, and we'll have a Q&A for parents in a different format. But this is information that if you had any questions, these are some of the items that we went through. And that's all I have.
As you can see, board members, there has been a lot of planning and a lot of discussion to really make our innovative schedule just the best for our students and teachers. But we also wanted to talk to you about our next steps, what can happen here. And I would be remiss if I did not focus on professional development and curriculum, because this is going to be just so important. Of course, I'm going to say that, but it really is. It's going to be critical to its successful implementation. For professional development for teachers, we had the opportunity to have Region 20 come in and show us a little bit about what blended learning is. And that's just one model, project-based learning. There's a lot of types of methodologies that we can use in the classroom, but what's most important is we want to focus on engagement from bell to bell. We want to be able to focus on meeting the individual needs of every child. And the best way to do that really is through small group instruction. And it's very easily done at the elementary, but it's a bit harder for secondary teachers to do that. And so we have to provide that training. What would that look like in a 90-minute period? And then, of course, we want to be able to allow that for that deeper exploration. For example, as an ex-science teacher, I can tell you, conducting labs was very difficult in a 50-minute period, 45-minute period, depending on what schedule it was. So sometimes you just miss the point when you go from one day to the next. This will allow our students to really engage, to really read and write about what they're reading, to really engage in labs, to engage in every opportunity to make learning meaningful for them. And so registration process is going to continue, parent meetings, PGPs, personal graduation plans. On the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about curriculum development. Here in this school district, a year ago, we began the what I like to call the in-house grassroots curriculum development, and it has really made a difference in teachers being involved, providing their input. And I'm just going to throw this out there. TEAC's resource system does not cater to the data, to the needs of our learners. When we develop our curriculum in-house, we're able to take our data, analyze our academic trends. Where is it that our students are low performing? Where is it that our students need to go higher? And we're able to write curriculum for that. From the specialist perspective, we take that data, we analyze it, we talk to teachers, and we're able to say, okay, what type of instructional strategies do we need to focus on? And that's how we write and we develop. And we work backwards. We're able to develop our own unit assessments, and we're able to track our data. And on top of that, we're able to come back after we implement and we monitor and we evaluate, and we're able to make changes. You can't do that with a packaged curriculum. So that's, of course, one of the benefits that we're going to be doing here. We've already started conversations with our teachers. They're excited. They're ready to go when they see me or any other instructional specialist. They say, I've got stuff already. I'm ready to go. And we're already lining up dates to meet with them after school, to invite every teacher to provide input. And then, of course, to build formative assessments, every aspect of the curriculum that you can think of. So we're excited about that, and we're excited about that opportunity that we can have with an innovative schedule.
And so we finished this presentation simply but just, reminding everybody that, the secret of change is to focus your energy not on fighting the old, but in building the new. And I can tell you that I am so proud of the 3 principals that you have, because I have never seen them, even though they talk about each other's schools and they challenge each other. It's just incredible, the conversations that we're having, and it's like, nope, we got to be consistent. Nope, we got to do things the same. And so I cannot tell you what it has really just built just a huge camaraderie and the leadership that they're all just feeding from each other. And it has taken a lot of people to come up with this innovative schedule. And again, I tell you, it's not a cookie cutter plan, because we wanted to build something that was just for Judson ISD. What could best service our kids in our district? And so what we bring to you tonight is the work of many people and many, many hours. And so if there are any questions, by all means, there are a lot of people in this audience that can answer, not just myself and the team that we brought forth today. But if you have any questions whatsoever, please let us know.
Okay, at this time, I guess this would be the time that if any of the board members would like to question or discuss, this would be the time. And this is not working. Mr. Cortinez, this is not working. Okay. We'll go without it. I'll start down here on the end, and everybody can have an opportunity to talk. Ms. Canoyer?
Thank you. I know that when this first was brought up, my concern was money. If you can promise me that it's not going to cost more money, I would love to sit and see a little bit more about what a master schedule would look like. That's just because I'm interested in it. It's not necessarily everybody's jam. But I know as an English teacher, the benefit of a longer period of time and fewer students, because grading 160 English papers is no fun. But having the time to fully do a writer's workshop, reader's workshop, being able to, with a 90-minute period like that, you can do both. And so intermingling the reading and writing is crucial to getting students to understand all the complexity of being a proficient English reader and writer. So I also know that that's a benefit in science, as you mentioned, having a lab set up and trying to run, 7 classes through in one day is just, I love you science teachers, because it would kill me. I do see lots and lots of benefits, and I can certainly tell that you've put in an enormous amount of time and very thoughtful looking at the numbers and the time periods, and flexible. This is a year long, and these are semester long. And I'm looking forward to see how this play out. Thank you.
Ms. Eaton?
While you were talking, I wrote a little note to Ms. Canoyer, and I said, there's a reason why when you get to college, your classes are 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours long. It works. But my question to you is, how would this affect the students? How would we phase it in so that it wouldn't have a negative effect, anybody, losing credits or, anything like that? So can I have an idea of how we would phase it in?
Okay. We looked at that because we were worried about how we're going to phase it in. So we had several opportunities to discuss the phase-in product of it. And the kids will it's actually going to be a benefit for a student. So the students are used to taking all their core classes in one day. When we phase it in for them, they will only be taking 2 to 3 core classes in that first semester. So they'll be able to add more electives. And in the spring semester, they'll take the additional. So for students, it's going to benefit them because they're not going to have the rigorous material of all the core classes in one day. And in one for fall semester. So they'll have time, it's all benefiting the students. They'll have more time to focus and take those elective classes that they didn't take probably with the traditional schedule, and it's gonna be less rigorous for the students. So it's not gonna hurt any students, it's all individualized for the students. So if the phase-in process should be easy. It's gonna be, the students will benefit and like it once they see that it's not gonna be as difficult from the 7-period day to the 10-period day, because they will be taking 5 in the fall, 5 in the spring.
And, absolutely, and just to add to it, we actually played around with schedules, so we actually build schedules for, and I'll give you an example, and this is my best one that I love. We have a student that actually failed English 1, and the course and EOC, failed Algebra 1 and EOC, failed Biology 1 and EOC, and we were actually able to get him through some remediation courses during the day so that they could pass their EOC, and we ended up having a distinguished measure at the end and graduating with 32 credits. And we were, and so I'm really proud of the principals because they have worked on, we have samples of all kinds of kids, whether he's in athletics or band or GT or special ed. We have samples of all kinds of schedules because we really wanted to see how is it going to affect every single population that we could think of. And so we actually do have sample schedules. They're make-believe, but they're there. No true student.
Thank you, because I'm always interested, you know, in making sure that we maintain our inclusive environment for our special needs students. And I agree with you. I went to high school in Chicago, and actually the high school I went to, this is the schedule that we had. And so I never could understand when people would tell me, oh, well, you know, I had like 7 or 8 classes, different classes in one day, and really didn't pick up on much in any of them because it was like a herd of cattle. Rush in there, sit down, and if the teacher's having problems with one student and can't jump right in, you know, so I agree wholeheartedly. Thank you. And that presentation was outstanding. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll give y'all a hand.
Mr. Macias, I know you have questions. I saw you writing as much as I did. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, I do have questions. I probably won't ask all of them because I do want to hear from my other colleagues as well, and I'll come back if I have additional questions. But some of the initial thoughts were the data. I had asked earlier where the data was pulled, and TEA was where it was indicated. I did a real quick look at the TEA site, and I could not find the 65% graduation rate for Judson High School or the 65% graduation rate for Wagner. So I probably would like to know where that is just for my own sanity. I found numbers like 86% and 83.7% on page 18 of that TEA report. So I couldn't find it. Where was it? That'll be perfect. Just, again, just to know that we are looking at that information. Additionally, we've talked here a great deal about success in the classroom begins with teachers. I mean, that's bona fide where it all starts. But when one of the presenters mentioned about input from a lot of stakeholders, but I didn't hear teachers. I did hear later on that there will be teachers engaged in this process. But that's wonderful. But I always think that whenever you're going to have something as big as this, that incorporating input from our teachers from the beginning is important because you have to get that buy-in. One thing that I will tell you that I looked at with the TEA information is the reason why Eagle Pass and United might be doing so well is because they nearly have a double to triple years of experience in the district with their teachers. So when we're looking at Judson and Wagner, Judson has 5.8 as an average tenure of a teacher. Wagner is 4.5. Now, when you look at Eagle Pass, 14.6. When you look at United, 12.4. So success begins with retaining teachers in the classroom. And so with all the new professional development that's needed, I mean, it's important, as you mentioned, but we need to get our teachers on par to teach these kind of courses. And I'm a little concerned that I want to see more substance there, because naturally that's part of why they're successful. I mean, anybody want to respond to that?
We didn't address it, but fine arts teachers and teachers, if you look on the timeline, were brought into the conversations. Every high school principal met with their teachers and discussed the scheduling with them. The feedback that we got from Laredo United and from Eagle Pass is that once the teachers are on the schedule, they all love it. Nobody wants to go back, because it does build that, and they have been able to retain their teachers because they're happy to come to work and they like to do. So that was the feedback we got from the
And
teachers.
that might be the case, because obviously it's very clear
Yes,
in that respect.
And I can speak to teachers because I deal with teachers every day. We've been talking about this for 3 years at Wagner High School and at Judson. 3 years. And so my teachers were on board 3 years ago. And they have lived through every variation that we've put forth before them. I don't have people complaining about going to the schedule. They're excited. I have teachers volunteering to come in the summertime to write curriculum because they're excited that someone's finally going to let them put their hands on it. I'm the master of my craft, and I want to put my word in. I can also tell you that I've met with parents, I started this conversation 3 years ago, and then we didn't do it. And I had parents upset that we that we didn't go down that pathway. And what they're excited about is that we're really looking at every kid. What the teachers are excited about is that we're going to get the time to really do the things that we know need to be done, but we're sacrificing because we don't have the time in the class period to do it. And so the teachers have been at Wagner High School and at Judson and at Veterans. We've been in this conversation for 3 years straight. We're ready to go.
Okay. I guess my follow-up, and sorry, you can take this back. I don't want to keep your phone, but you might get a call. Okay, this is interesting. I'll look more at that, but thank you for confirming that. I couldn't find it on my iPad. No, I was looking at Judson High. I was looking at Judson and Wagner High School rather than district. Sure. Thank you for that. So thank you for that information regarding the information from teachers. We had this model once upon a time. It wasn't the same, but it was extended classroom time. And so during the time we had it as a district, I understand that we backed out of it because we had some potential inefficiencies of classroom management. Teachers who were passing out worksheets, and this is what I've been told. I was not here at that time. So I did some surveys about what that looked like before. So based on that, my concern would then be, how are we going to give the appropriate professional development so every minute is utilized and that we don't have just it's a free study hour or whatever they want to do in the classroom. How is that going to be managed so that we see an efficiency there?
We've actually already worked with Region 20 and have set dates to bring in teachers during this spring semester to begin some of that work. Our professional development conference this last school year looked a little bit different. We gave teachers choice. We gave certain requisites of very important methodologies such as guided math, guided reading, writer's workshop, reading workshop. And so similarly, we're going to do that with the high school teachers. Specifically, one of the methodologies that we're looking into is blended learning. This allows the opportunity for teachers not to direct teach for 90 minutes, because we know that doesn't work. But it actually gives the teachers a framework of what the classroom could look like, where it's tailored to different stations. If you kind of go back to your elementary years, where you were sitting in the same classroom from 8 to 3 p.m., you didn't stay seated. Hopefully you did not stay seated from 8 to 3 p.m. doing the same thing. But what came in was variety. And that's what we need to do. We should be doing it in a 50-minute period, but we need more exposure to what that can look like. And so that's the type of training that we're going to focus on for our high school teachers. And it's called blended learning. It's called a variety of things.
Well,
but what it is, it's essentially, think back to your elementary years when you were doing stations.
So is there going to be then a plan? Our turnover rate in the district has been pretty consistent. It's falling, which is fantastic, but you have new teachers you'll be bringing in from high school. Is there sort of like a new teacher orientation that will give that blended learning experience right out of the gate?
Well, So there's going to be two plans of attacks. For our new teachers, what we have done in the past is just a 2-day academy, which has been very quick, just talking about the basics. One of the things that Dr. Ball has asked that we do this year is really do a week-long new teacher academy. So, and our instructional specialists over the summer will be able to develop it and facilitate it. So number one, there's the advantage that it's in-house. There's the advantage that the new teachers will get to know the instructional specialists that will be coming into the classroom and providing them coaching and modeling of lessons. And also, there's just that extended period of time where our teachers are not just gonna get a quickie 50-minute, come in here, let's talk to you about grade book. Okay, now let's move over and let's talk to you about how you're gonna take attendance now. So it's going to be very detailed, of focusing mostly, of course, on what content will look like in the classroom. And Ms. Robinson, would you like to add?
So let me talk to you a little bit about, you brought in the retention rate at the teacher retention rate at Eagle Pass and at Laredo, that it was very high. It is high. The question is, why is it high? It's high because teachers are happy. Teachers are happy teaching, and they have bought into the system. They have bought into how they're doing things. And when you have happy teachers, you have retention. And so one of our key areas is, let us provide you the best staff development that we can provide you. Let us build you to the best capacity that we can possibly build you. And let us truly allow you to make a huge difference in our students' lives.
Well, and that's what excites me. If this program truly works and this restructure builds on retention, which has been always a concern for I know myself and some colleagues on the board, we want teachers to stay here. But that's the key. I mean, that is a very critical step to the success of this program. I'm not going to do page 2, but I will wrap up. I will wrap up with a few more questions, and I'll let this pass it on. But I guess programs like the dual credit, and IB, and fine arts, how are they going to be impacted, or not at all? Will they be able to continue in the same manner?
They're going to be able to grow even more so, because the students will have even more opportunities more than anything else. So one of the things that we did is, as you know, most of the college courses are semester long. So by keeping those semester long courses and doing the calendar the way that we did it, it actually falls right straight into a college setting. And so the kids will actually, if you actually took an advanced student, he's probably going to be able to, I'm going to say, take maybe like 6 to 8 more dual credit courses than they're taking currently right now.
So my daughter loves band, and she did it as a freshman, a sophomore. So someone that loves that extracurricular activity would be able to continue throughout their time.
We have a band student schedule, yes, sir.
Okay.
And you will.
And so you mentioned no additional cost,
No.
which means in my mind, when that's done, there must have been a budget. You guys must have said, this is the numbers, this is what it's going to look like. But that was not provided here. Can we see a sample of what that budget looks like?
I'm going to tell you what Dr. Ball, when she charged us with it, she told not only myself and senior staff and all the principals, if we were to do this, no additional staff whatsoever. And so we said, okay. And so we took on the challenge. And I can tell you that the high school principals, along with their deans and their counselors, have worked tremendously to make this schedule happen. They do have copies of possible master schedules, because, I mean, we're still working, we're still trying to iron, some things out, like anything else. And of course, the master schedule is driven by student choice. And so we have to give our students the opportunity of choosing what it is that they want to take, and then we make the true master schedule. But we do actually have some sample master schedules that we kind of like started just because we just wanted to see what would it look like, and like I'm telling you, we did a lot of fake schedules. A lot of them were based on staff, their daughters or their sons. And so, and so we just like, okay, if my daughter or my son was taking this and this is how they are, okay, what would it look like? And so we built schedules because we wanted to make sure that we were touching every student and making individualized choices for them.
So there is a budget? That's what I'd like to see.
I mean, it's the
if we're
current
gonna-
budget, I don't see,
Again, just the validation being, I need
Sure.
to see where there are no
I-
additional costs. But that doesn't mean you're cutting programs for this, right?
No, no.
No additional means
And-
really no additional
And
cost.
I can tell you, we might come back to you with CTE, because right now, the legislation is actually taking public comments on what are some of the things that we can possibly gain for accountability. Right now, remember that we have like 200 and something courses that we actually offer throughout the whole state of Texas, but they only narrowed it to 78, and that's all they're looking at. So right now, TA and our legislators are actually looking at what additional courses can we possibly use for accountability. So we might come back and say, you know what, we need to add this other course because this is part of the TA growth. And we want to offer those kids the opportunity, but it won't be something that we're asking you for extra money. It'll be something that we have to work out within our own budget.
Right, and what I could also do is provide the board a copy of a current budget for the high school, and you can see that information and how we're going to be staying in those guidelines.
Mr. LaFoille?
I've got no questions at this time.
All right. Ms. Rodriguez?
Mr. Macias asked a few of my questions already. The one question I have left is that I appreciate all of the information. This is super thorough, and I hope that the teachers have gotten this much information, and over time, not just, like I saw one said their meeting was just last week. I hope they've known about this a lot longer than that. But the one question I have is, does this require board approval? Because this is in the non-voting part. So I appreciate all the information, but I don't think this is our decision to make.
No, it truly doesn't require board approval. It's something, for example, I could give a few examples, like our district does balanced literacy. So when a district does balanced literacy, it's the program that we're using. That doesn't require, board approval.
And I'll just wrap this up by saying to, I can't see, so I'm just by saying that, first of all, thank you for the intricate detail that you took in giving us this presentation, because it does answer a lot of questions. So, like Ms. Canoyer, as a former teacher, I want to say, number one, I am glad that the teachers also have input, because as Mr. Macias said, once they've got the buy-in, once they've got some, the opportunity to have some input in the system, and I'm going to call it a system and not a program, because systems last. Programs go from one year to another, but this is a system. And so this is great for teachers to be able to buy into it. And the other thing is because they'll be buying in and working with the curriculum, there's going to be more ownership. So I'm really glad about that. And then middle school students going into high school. This is so great for them to start in their freshman year. That's what I was thinking about. As a former middle school teacher, I know that those kids go to high school scared to death. But this is going to be great for them because they'll have less to manage. And that's good. What else did I write? So, when will you give the orientation to the middle school students and parents for them to understand?
I do believe that those have started somewhat, but I know that Ms. Garcia can elaborate a lot on that.
Okay.
And I was hoping somebody was going to ask that question because middle school has actually worked hard to prepare for this as well. We use an electronic system, School Links, for our personal graduation plans. So all of these schedules that are mapped out, the students will be selecting them starting February 19th, off the top of my head. So February 19th, and they will be selecting their whole four-year plan for the high school. So we will be sending those PGPs home, and we have parent night scheduled in March 19th, 23rd. We can get those dates to you. We did them last year, where parents come in and sign their four-year plan / their personal graduation plan, and they see the whole schedule for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So all of these creative schedules, we actually are at an advantage to some of the other districts. They don't have an electronic scheduling system like that. They do them by hand, and counselors were having to change schedules all the time. Our personal graduation plans that parents see they're gonna be seeing that year after year. We just rolled it up to 10th, 11th, and 12th for this year, 11th grade. So they'll have that, and they'll know what their child is gonna take. Beginning of the year, we'll send it back out in the middle of the year, and the end of the year for them to sign it again. So parents are aware of every class the students will be taking. So we do have those on schedule, and the students will be selected electronically, and they will go home, and there'll be a parent night for them.
Perfect.
And just the last thing is that we're working fast and furious on the course catalog, and that'll be up on the web, and so it'll be available at each of the high schools. But we are doing a unified course catalog, so it is a course catalog for the district, not for the individual. So I am so proud of these principals. There's a lot of collaboration, and so we're gonna type as fast as we can.
I'm very proud of you all, too. And lastly, I just would like to say, this board has heard about an alternative schedule that Judson High School wanted. But I'm going to tell you, I am really glad, because we've always talked about equity and each high school being able to do the same thing. I am so glad that you all were able to collaborate and come up with a way that this works at each high school. Every student at each high school will be having the same type of course curriculum. It's wonderful. So thank you very much for everybody that had something to do with this. And, I did say lastly, but this is for real lastly. Because we always thought that what we were told was that this was really going to affect athletics, and we didn't want it to affect athletics. So I'm glad that the coaches were able to be in on this too, so that everybody has buy-in to it. That's what's going to make it successful, because everybody's on board. So thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Ball. Go right ahead. Sure.
If there's anybody in the audience that attended a meeting or went on a site visit, will you please stand? I could not be prouder of you guys. Thank you. It's so easy to do the same thing over and over, but it's hard to be brave and to change. And what you demonstrated tonight is truly something to be proud of. So thank y'all so very much. Thank you.
All right.
I still have page 2. So-
You'll have to do page 2
Yes.
next month.
I'll be brief. I'm kidding. Ms. Rodriguez actually asked a lot of the questions, and Renee also commented on them. So the only thing that I'll say in terms of my last comments regarding this is that opportunity now, because what's impressed me with Dr. Ball is the innovation. We need to be innovative. And so with Bonafide, that is real. And aspects of social emotional support, of SAT prep, all of that now has an ability now to get to that next level, which excites me. But we just need to realize that fact. So again, just also want to say thank you for all the hard work as well.
Thank you, Mr. Macias. Is there anybody else that wants to say anything? Okay. All right, let's move on then to item 6D, discussion of district-wide summer programming for Judson ISD students. Dr. Ball?
Excuse me. I'm going to ask Dr. Cantu to help me with this. I think she has a handout.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Ball, may I approach the podium?
Yes, please.
I can't see the board members.
There's so many gifts here.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Ball. In your packets, you have a summer school planning updates. And so there's some highlights that I would like to share with you. And I'm going to give Betty just 1 minute to be able to share, because the copy that you are receiving was updated using the latest information of a meeting that was held yesterday. So with that, I created the update, and so the colored copy is probably the best copy to reference. So what I'd like to point out is a couple things. First of all, I'm really proud of our team. We have a team of about 35 individuals from every department in the district that is helping make this lift, plan the summer school. And there's some things that we're looking at for consistency and to help improve our instruction. So you will notice that on the colored copy, I made a note on June the 3rd, we're looking at a professional development day. What has happened in the past, this is a change from last year. What has happened in the past is we do a 1-hour training after school and we start the next day, and teachers don't have the scope of the work that needs to get done during summer school. So we've identified that that's an area that we need to improve on. June the 4th, we're actually giving the teachers a teacher work day. This is an opportunity to plan their day, plan their classroom. We want to see things up on the wall so that it is not a bare classroom. So again, this is a change from last year. We're looking at June the 5th being the first day of class. If you look on the far right-hand corner, you will notice that I have the teacher work schedule and the student school day schedule. We also included a lunch window schedule for elementary and secondary. We are looking at 5 elementary schools, and I will tell you that this is a draft as of yesterday. One of the things that has changed is the conversations for summer school last year began around March, and here we are in January, and we're already at identifying many of the programs and identifying locations, and also the date and the start date and the end date. And you have that information. You will also notice that one of the other changes that we're looking at is administrators. In the past, we have hired administrators, principals, usually would be the AP, assistant principals, that would apply. And one of the things that we're doing is we're using our current staff that is on 226 days that have administrative experience or certifications to help us. So you will notice that we have different programs. There's administrators. There's also some programs, for example, if you go to the Hopkins Elementary, where we have Camp Inventions number 1 and 2, you will notice that we have 150 students at that campus. We are looking, there are some pending programs that have not been added yet. Remember, we have had 2 meetings. In your packet, you have a meeting schedule. So we've had 2 meetings, and in the 2 meetings, we've accomplished a lot, but there's still more work to get done. You will also, one of the other things as a cost-saving measure that will be a change is that most programs, and we're looking at 90 to 95% of our programs, having the programs in the month of June. And we're looking at a 4-day school day, Monday through Thursday, but we've extended the instructional time. So the students, they will not be in school on Friday. However, they will have a longer instructional day. Instead of ending at 3:30 or 3 o'clock, we're ending at 4. We also believe that these changes are going to help us recruit the best teachers for summer school, because we believe that some of the teachers, that 3-day weekend is a motivation in itself. So we are hoping that we will make sure that we recruit the best teachers. If you'll notice, we have on page 2, we have 1 middle school that has been identified. Our middle school programs will take place at Woodlake Hills Middle School. Our high school campus will be Wagner High School. And I'm not going to read every program because you can see the context. And we're also going to be using the Judson High School, the Performing Arts Centers, for a fine arts camp. In your packet, I also included, in this colored packet, the very last page has some pending programs. I wanted to make sure that we are very transparent. We are working on finalizing some details with, for example, Adventure Club. Coach Miller is also working with me on the athletic camps. Those are not listed in our packet today, but they will be included. We also have some end-of-course prep camps, And we're evaluating how that's going to happen because we want to make sure that all students, and if students are required to go to a summer program and we have it in June, it may disqualify some students that are having to go to a summer program, for example, an SSI program. So we're looking at, can we push it to July? So these are the few exceptions of July. We also have deleted some programs. We're looking at a learning project. This was a project that I did my very best to research and find out a little bit more about this. And this was something that I was told we would be deleting due to budget cuts. Tuition-based, I want to make sure that we understand that we are not saying tuition is not going to be available. What we're saying is we're looking at concentrating on the students that have failed a course. They can do, for purposes of credit recovery, come in and take that course in the core content areas. So this is being replaced by the option of doing credit recovery. So as I mentioned, I've outlined the campuses, the start time, the end time, the approximate number of students per campus, and I just have to take the time to give a shout out to the team, including our transportation director, our child nutrition director, and the many directors that have worked hard with me to make sure that we identified all the programs that we plan accordingly. In your packet, the board packet on page 146, you have a meeting schedule. And you will note that the conversations began in December to plan for summer school. Early May, we should have final plans to share with you. Some of the highlights in the meeting schedule that you will see that are different. We're going to be looking at staffing. How do we recruit our best teachers? And how, there's a team, including our testing and accountability director, helping to see what are some approaches that we can identify the best teachers so that we can approach them and ask them to help us during summer school. We're also looking at making sure that principals have an orientation. That is something that I'll be working with our principals to make sure that they understand procedures and they understand schedules and they understand that there's some consistency aspects that are important for efficiency. So at this time, I will entertain any additional questions.
Anyone?
I got one.
Mr. LaFoille?
What are we doing with the students that can't afford to go to these? Is there some way of covering them?
Mr. LaFoille, if you look at, we have some required programs, and for example, at Escondida, we have what we know as a SSI grade 5. Those are students that failed the state assessments. So those students, it's all students invited. We also have, for example, Camp Invention, and these are being held, if you look at Copperfield, you see a STEM summer camp. That is for all students, it's 100 students, and it is not limited to, there is no fee, and it's not limited to a group of students. It's open to all. We have a college planning boot camp that focuses on the military students. So to answer your question in a very short summary is to let you know that we address different groups, and we made sure that everyone had an opportunity to attend free of charge and open to all students.
Another example, this is just an example, like the summer fine arts, it is free.
That is correct.
Are we going to have a summer feeding program for the children?
Yes, sir. We have identified 3 campuses. Well, all campuses, the children will receive breakfast and lunch at the campuses that designated for summer school sites. But if you notice, next to Copperfield, there's a note that says open site or public feeding site. That means those are the sites that are open to the community. Okay, and there's 3 of them.
Well, as I get a better view of this, I'll probably have more questions on it.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Mr. Macias?
Thank you, Dr. Cantu. This is a follow-up, right, Dr. Ball, to the question about allocating resources or dollars for summer programming, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I think for that agenda item, I was requesting maybe $150,000 for summer programming. I don't see a cost here, so is there no cost incurred for these additional programs?
Right now, there isn't. We could still come back and be asking the board for some money. Right now, we're still in the planning stage. For example, I know that next Friday, Dr. Cantu and I have a meeting with some other people about some different program offerings. So right now, we've been able to fund these things through some funds that we already have. Some are local, some are title, so various pots of money are funding these. But there is the possibility that could be coming back and asking the board for some funds.
The objective was to offer pathways for engaging our students that need the support or that would like the support in terms of character development or even academics or just differentiated learning. And so what does the what is the student impact on here is what I'm trying to figure out. We're talking about collectively these programs, but is there an outcome of how many students would be impacted based on this current schedule?
If I'm right, Dr. Cantu, I think we'd have to quickly do the math. 490, let me get my calculator real quick.
Ms. Canoyer pointed out to the gray line here that shows which
Yes.
each one does. And so that gives me a better idea of, so the fine art program, which I'm excited about, will serve.
I am as well.
will serve 125 students?
Yes. We're starting out small this year. This is our first go-around. I can't wait to see. Hopefully, we do have 125 students that are interested. It's any student with 4th grade to 12th grade that can participate in this.
From what grade, I'm sorry?
4th to 12th.
Okay.
And from any campus.
Well, obviously, there's going to be more than 125, we assume, right?
I sure hope so.
All right, well, I appreciate this first initial effort in looking at this. I just think that our community would be served well, and we did meet with HOAs a couple of weeks ago that are also interested in District 4 in doing more to partner with the district and just offer positive outlets for our students at a minimal cost. Okay, well, you said you would provide a budget later as soon as things come. Okay, thank you.
I also want to point out something that the district had done many years ago, or some years ago, and we're bringing back. It's on the second page. It'll be held at Pashala Elementary. Has to do with the gang resistance education. So that's, from what I heard, a very good program that was done, and we're bringing that one back.
Yes, and I just want to highlight, board members, thank you, Dr. Ball, for highlighting that one. There are a couple of other programs that are being evaluated. We're looking at the budget. We're looking at a drones program for our elementary and middle school students. So this is, again, after 2 meetings of summer school planning. So there will be updates. I will make sure to provide them to Dr. Ball so that she can continue to share it with our board and keep you informed.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Red?
Thank you, this is great. The one question I had, especially I think when I think about Adventure Club, which is the one that looks like it does cover the full day and I assume is targeted at working parents, but that's still going to be on a 4-day schedule? Or has it been considered that maybe that one could be a 5-day schedule to accommodate the needs of parents?
This was something that came up just recently, and you're absolutely correct. For a working parent, they would need it Monday through Friday. I shared a brief conversation with Dr. Ball, and one of the things that we're looking at is it will be considered that the 5-day and moving it to one campus so that we don't have multiple campuses open and also be as a cost-saving measure. So Dr. Ball has supported that approval. I'm working with our Adventure Club coordinator to make sure that we finalize those details. You're welcome.
Ms. Canoyer?
Thank you so much for all the work that goes into planning something like this. I know that with so many of our campuses undergoing renovations, and that always throws a monkey wrench into the planning and so forth. I appreciate the fact that we're beginning this so early instead of waiting until the last minute. So this enables our parents to pick out, choose, apply for, and see what program they would like to have their students enrolled in. And I do understand that certainly we can't affect all 24,900 students that we have in the district, but we can make a good start here. I know that there are some budget considerations for transportation and salaries and so forth, so I know that there will be money going towards that. And I'm hopeful that as we get this started, we'll be able to see some of those partnerships come in, maybe not this summer, but as we kind of see how this all works and what campuses are best aligned to what kinds of programs, that we can reach out to some of those other groups that would be willing to partner with us. But I do want to say thank you to all for your hard work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Cantu. Good job.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right. We are moving on to item 6E, review of the 2018-19 Administrative Review and Procurement Review of School Nutrition Program. Dr. Ball?
Yes, I probably should not have used the word review because review sounds like we're actually reviewing the audit, and that is not the case. So review, I apologize, is probably not the best word. What I meant to put on there is inform. So the USDA requires audits. So we are going through an audit that is being done by the USDA. So the audit is really conducted into three parts. So we have the United States Department of Agriculture, which is the USDA, and they come in to the district and they look at specific things, one of them being our procurement procedures. They look and see if we have formal procurements for RFPs, if we have non-competitive methods, and how we are basically doing in the child nutrition area. So we had a first one that was done in October, and then that was the first part of it. The second part is going to be done in February, and the third part in March. So this is kind of a one audit that's done in part, and I just wanted to let the board know that we are going to be going through this process. We will review it after the process is done. And that's all I have.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Are there any comments? We'll move on to item 6F, update on board advisory committees. And I'll start with Ms. Eaton. Do you have anything? Ms. Canoyer? I know you do.
I always. The next Curriculum Advisory Committee meeting will be on February 5th, and I hope that we'll have a lot of people coming in to give input and share their ideas. We don't have a Finance Committee meeting scheduled yet? Okay, so we're working on getting a Finance Committee meeting schedule. And I would ask that these be placed prominently somewhere on the website so that we can direct people there to see when all these meeting dates are. Thank you.
Mr. LaFoille? Nothing. Ms. Rodriguez?
We have a strategic planning committee meeting coming up on February 7th, I believe, and that's the next thing.
Okay. And I have none. 6G, update on board training, conferences, events, and consider future agenda items requests by board members. Does anybody have anything that they want to share? I think are we all going to the winter governance? And you're not? Okay. How many of us are going to winter governance in Galveston? Okay. Dr. Ball, you're not? Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm going. I wouldn't miss it.
All right. Any future agenda items, anybody? Okay. At this time, we will go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, discussing personnel and updates including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, attorney consultation regarding legal issues related to superintendent's mid-year evaluation and contract. 7C, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, consider and discuss the superintendent's mid-year evaluation and contract. 7D, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, attorney consultation regarding legal issues relating to pending special ed matters. The time is 8:30.